Right, thanks for coming, everyone, and welcome to Little Red Roosters Summer Showcase 2023, and the second of our Rooster Sessions talks today, which is called The Power of Affiliate Marketing. Our panel to my right here, starting on my right, are Rob Lean, who is GQ's Senior E-Commerce Editor, Sally Newell, who's Acting Editor at Eliza, Harriet Fluke, who's Senior E-Commerce Writer at News UK, and Richard Chatley from Marshall Marketing Communications, and Little Red Rooster's own Tabby Grove Account Director. So yeah, we're here to talk about affiliate marketing. It seems a sensible place to just ask, what is it, and how does it work? Anyone want to start with that?
You're too kind. So affiliate marketing is quite simple, really. Let's say you're looking for a product online. You find it on gq.co.uk or The Sun or Eliza, and then you buy the product through one of those links. The publisher gets a cut of the purchase fee, and everyone's happy.
How it seems to me one of these things, from my perspective, a bit like ChatGPT, which has suddenly become a talking point. Maybe a year ago it was something in the distance, and now it's become a bigger and bigger thing. Is that correct? And
well, I'd say ChatGPT is slightly more existential to the journalistic
okay,
industry than affiliate marketing. Maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'd say I've been working in service journalism, which I prefer to think of it as shopping, service journalism, one of those, for 10 years. So it's been on my radar for quite a long time, for a decade. But yeah, I think really the pandemic was when we saw like a huge shift. I mean, in terms of like publishers that weren't already doing it were sort of really noticing that other publishers were reporting huge revenue numbers, particularly like your Futures, your Condés, Hearsts, where I used to work. You'd see those numbers talking about, triple-digit growth, et cetera, when all the shops were shut and people could only purchase stuff at home. And then I think with fall in other revenues, all the stories we know about from the publishing world, it then meant that e-commerce was seen as a really important revenue pillar for some publishers. Not all, but particularly like your magazine publishers, your sort of legacy magazine publishers that we work for, and also like the national newspapers as well. So yeah, I'd say the tide has. I'm trying to think of an analogy, and it's going to go wrong. So yeah, it's been momentum's been growing. Sort of, the pandemic was probably like the zenith of that, and then since then we've kind of been refining. Everyone's been refining what they do and sort of coming back down to earth and like looking at how, like, is it a sustainable revenue stream, like big revenue stream going forward, and what else you've got coming into your pie, I suppose, what other pieces you've got.
I think from our point of view on a newspaper side, we've seen a big growth and like demand and like authentic, like first person content, and that kind of step away, probably in the pandemic as well with influencers, when they're all just jetting off to Dubai. But like all that kind of like authentic kind of first person stuff is kind of what the audience wants, and that kind of e-commerce style way of writing is kind of naturally kind of gives you people that. So it's also kind of fitting into that audience, but then also at the same time commercially it's making us money and future-proofing us against like falls in like print, like Sally was saying, and other stuff like that, where it's trying to diversify what people are actually reading and making and stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I think it's probably something that's been sort of brewing over the last, I don't know, maybe decade, say, and then 2 to 3 years it's really sort of landed. It's become a kind of established part of the mix, and like from my side, from the brand side, we are recognising it as part of the mix and part of the tools that we need to use. I think for many brands, e-commerce and D2C is becoming more important. So yeah, it's very recognised, it's established, and it's useful for us. I mean, obviously as a kind of driver of a revenue stream, but also as a brand reach tool. So we're looking at it as how can we reach broader audiences, newer audience. Yeah, sort of two reasons for us to do it. Yes, it drives the revenue, but also where can we now place our brand through affiliate schemes?
I don't know about you guys, but when I started, like a lot of brands weren't really aware of affiliate marketing, and you'd have to explain a lot what it was. And I think people thought it was kind of buying into like shares and stuff. But now a lot of the time, brands are coming to us saying like, we're on Skimlinks, we're on AWIN, and you can get this, and it's kind of leading to like more opportunities there, which is great to see how much it's changed.
On that point, Tabby, is there an education thing where you still find yourself maybe having to explain to both sides, to clients and to journalists, about how it works?
I would say journalists know, because you guys live and breathe it every day. Clients know about affiliate marketing. It gets thrown around. They kind of been told they should be doing it, but don't really understand the full potential. For us now, pitching for kind of coverage, there is still PR in it. A lot of kind of brands will be told by, not to bad name the other agency, but other agencies that they do affiliate PR, but that's just going to a journalist saying, can you add a link, which I'm sure you guys probably is pet hate. There is still PR to it. It's not advertising. It's still keeping up that relationship. So yeah, it's kind of, PRs need to understand it well, but clients, it's quite often an unknown territory, and they're not fully sure how it fits into advertising, how it fits into product PR, and how many sales they can get from it, which at the end of the day is kind of the end goal for any brand. You might want to kind of brand awareness, you might want to change perception, but any brand exists to make sales.
So is that an education thing for you guys to explain,
Yeah,
to get that across?
Yeah, and kind of bridging the gap between what we do and what journalists are looking for, and explaining that.
You all referred to the pandemic. Was that the idea, that the truism that everyone was sat at home, not being able to go to the news agents and Googling stuff? Is that what kind of kickstarted it?
Yes. Yes. So I suppose there's a couple of threads to pull out there. And one is that was definitely the case for publishers that rely on a sort of scale SEO model. So which previous, like all public, generally speaking, unless you're behind like a hard paywall, everyone's going for scale to a degree. But that kind of discoverability where, say at Hearst, for example, where I was working at the time, we had, let's say, Runner's World, Men's Health, Women's Health, Esquire, but yeah, and so obviously you'd Good Housekeeping. So obviously when you Google, say you were looking for a treadmill for your, for your gym that had been closed, to replace the gym that had been closed. If you Google best treadmills and the team were doing the right thing, you'd probably see Runner's World, Men's Health, Women's Health up there, or whatever. And I'd say if I saw Runner's World talking about treadmills versus some other punter, I can't think, then I'd probably go for that one. So yeah, that on the one hand, yes, but I think on the other hand, I think it's part of a bigger education piece for brands, and also us as journalists about transparency, without giving away trade secrets, is that you kind of have to understand like how people are coming to that publisher's content, and that will manage expectations about the return. And if it is a publisher that has huge SEO authority, like the ones we've got here, not so much Eliza where I work because we're new, but could move on to that later, then obviously you probably are going to see the results because their best headphones is top of Google. Yeah, like GQs, for example. Whereas if it was a smaller publisher, say if you were placing something in Eliza now, we do rank for certain terms, but obviously we're a minnow, we're very new. We started our site a year ago. So it's not quite the same. You wouldn't get the same return. So I guess, that's quite nerdy and I guess, but it's just, I think it's like brands have to be aware, of where the eyeballs will be coming from, and that will differ from publisher to publisher.
I think also how time poor everyone is definitely now feeds into that, because who's got the time to be going around all their friends asking, what's the best kettle should I buy, what's the best speaker should I buy? You're just going to Google it and you're going to click on the first one. So SEO definitely falls into that as well.
I do think this is all new to a degree, but I also think it is fundamentally like really old in terms of journalism. Like I used to be the editor of Stuff magazine. We had a top 10s list at the back of Stuff, which was like the most popular thing in the magazine, much to my frustration. But like people would just read those product recommendations and then go buy the products. That just now exists online with some clicks on it, with some links on it. It's the same for GQ's watch guide. That already existed. We've been running that for ages and ages. It's really good. We've just given people the opportunity to say, you can buy this through Omega, you could buy it through Goldsmiths, you could buy it through whoever. Like it's new for brands because they have to, it's a different way of sort of promoting their products, I think. But I don't think it's very new for publishers at all, which is probably why publishers are quite slow moving at the best of times, which is probably why publishers have actually been able to grasp this and be like, oh, it's just a new version of something we've been doing for ages.
Yeah, I think for a journalist, some might think, oh, you know, you have dreams of being, I don't know, whatever, some fantastic writer, and this is just selling stuff. But effectively, you're being sent on tour with a band in the old days, say to America. You are there to sell their record. That's part of it. It's part of the same thing. The poacher gamekeeper thing is not. I don't think it's that really that different. I was looking at GQ last night and you talked about watches. It's interesting how finally you can slice those things. I think you have at the moment 10 best titanium watches, I think is one of the guides.
A very popular guide.
No, but I mean, it's interesting that people are clearly searching for that.
Yeah, I think where GQ, to speak to GQ's kind of strategy on affiliates, like obviously, like you were saying about Runner's World and treadmills, like the whole ball game with this kind of journalism and any sort of search-orientated journalism is like authenticity, quality, and like you were talking about with first-person perspectives, like actual trustworthiness. So like, well, apart from Esquire, to be fair, but who else are you going to get a watch recommendation from? It's the same. Who else are you going to get a leather jacket recommendation from, or white trainers? You know, like there's a handful of people you would actually trust to give you that, and trust enough to actually spend your hard-earned money. So, like, yeah, I think we do slice and dice because the people who come to GQ, they care about these things, and we're catering for them.
We had a lot of this when we started, I think, because we're a commercial team, but we sit on the editorial floor. It was trying to make sure we worked with the editorial teams to make sure the content that we were writing was, like you're saying, the trustworthiness. It has to be completely editorially sound, completely trustworthy and backed up. And a lot of this, when it comes to looking for products on the Sun, because it is such a big name brand and such a big newspaper, you want to make sure everybody is being given the right information. And for us, that meant a lot of working with the money teams to make sure that these disclaimers were in there, not just us on kind of affiliate disclaimers saying that we weren't on money, but also to make sure you're checking prices and do this, because you actually want to make sure you are giving people the best deals, because there's no point writing a 10 best or 10 cheapest something, and it's not that. The whole point is that it has to be trustworthy and it has to be the right kind of content for it to work, because otherwise you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, and it's in all your publication's interest not to you're messing up the brand if you're just selling stuff that's not any good. No one's interested in doing that, I guess. Well, Rich, you talked earlier a little bit about one of the things about affiliate marketing that differs from traditional advertising is that you can tweak it. If you spend 6 months shooting a campaign and for whatever reason it doesn't work, you're sort of stuck. Whereas affiliate marketing, you can on the fly, you can alter it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the differences, kind of in contrast to traditional models. And, as we were saying before, the kind of path to purchase for consumers hasn't changed that much. People look for recommendations if they're looking for a particular product, and if they like it, if the source is credible, they go through to purchase. But yeah, as we are running campaigns and we'll place them in different areas, we use different tactics, we can look at that kind of hourly almost to say, how are these performing? Do we need to increase our budget in certain areas? Do we want to pull things down? What's converting? Are we just bringing traffic in, but this is all disappearing very quickly? So yeah, it's kind of super dynamic. It gives you a huge amount of insight as well. I think that's the other thing, which is kind of so instantaneous. And, traditional marketing, we all had a good feel for what would work. And, we knew very quickly that certain publications, if they give you a strong review, it was a typical kind of strong view on a Thursday afternoon. We'd see our sales peak over the weekend. That was the sort of traditional pattern. But yeah, you can see it switch on instantaneously, and through our different sort of sales channels, whether it's our own e-com or the partners we work with. Yeah, it's within minutes almost. The traffic comes in. You can look at conversion. And yeah, you can make a really sort of quick on-the-fly decision of, do we want to do more of this? Is it performing? Is this just a kind of traffic generation and awareness exercise? So I think for brands to really sort of capitalize on it, you've got to have a bit of a plan around what do you want to achieve with this, and also be there ready to react to it.
I think on the reactive side, on the publisher side, that's something, and I can't believe I mentioned this in July, but Black Friday is like the biggest one for us. It's like our World Cup. But the reactive content's so like important to us that, especially on The Sun, our strategy is trying to look at not just the SEO kind of focus content. We put a lot of time and effort into these updates and making sure it's as watertight as they can be, but also kind of jumping on this reactive stuff. So if someone launches something and it's suddenly like going really well and it's really popular, then we need to make sure we're writing about it now, because we also don't want to miss the boat. We don't want to get there and let another publisher technically beat us, which I'm sure everybody else is all doing the same.
I'm not sure if this is the right word, but is there a certain sounds like there's a certain excitement in seeing that sort of immediacy with that? Is it fun?
And terrifying. But yeah, it's fun. I think it's a nice part of the job when you're doing that, and you're kind of getting into the swing of things, especially around those busy times of year. But yeah, there's a lot of stress that goes with it.
Rich, do you agree, seeing exactly where people are interacting with your products?
Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose there is that sort of fun element to it. It is a lot more immediate, and at Marshall we've got quite a big in-house e-com team that do this stuff, and I sometimes go past their office and I think it's a bit like looking at traders working, because they've got this data coming in, and yeah, they are running programs and they are tweaking them constantly. And yeah, events like Black Friday, you can't talk to these guys because they're working kind of 16-hour days and they're working the weekend. And but yeah, it's transformed the way that the market works, I guess. And the brands and the retailers that are succeeding are really kind of leaning into that and making the best of it.
Is Black Friday just getting bigger for everyone?
I think it's probably changed a little bit. I would say probably 5 years ago, it was such a sort of an isolated couple of days, and I feel it's probably now turned into a sort of season of retail. So I think it's probably delayed that sort of Q4 selling period. The week before Black Friday, official Black Friday, if you like, things start ramping up, and it generally runs through till Christmas. So it feels, for me, it always feels like a kind of 6 weeks, which is, I was going to say it was steady. It's 6 weeks, which is pretty sort of full on, but it's flattened a little bit through that season.
Okay. Tabby, how does traditional advertising fit into this? Do you need both?
I would say a lot of brands still want to have that traditional advertising. It's kind of for their status, but definitely, like you were saying, you can really tweak things. So for us, if we see loads of journalists are talking about, we're doing this certain topic, we can then go to our clients and say, this is where you need to be focusing. And like traditional print advertising, you'd have to book 2 months in advance. If suddenly things, for example, COVID, no one expected that. 2 months before, when people were booking advertising, their adverts weren't relevant at that point as soon as March hit, whereas anyone who's doing affiliate marketing can then quickly flick a switch and change their tactics there.
Shall I
Yeah,
say?
please.
Yeah, sort of talking to that and listening to what you were saying, I think something to bear in mind as well is it's a tap that can be turned on, but it's also a tap that can be turned off. And I know as publishers, that's one thing about affiliates, is that we don't have control over it, right? We don't have control. So if, like, I'm trying to think of, there is a big beauty brand that shall not be named. They told us, you know, I think it was Black Friday maybe last year or the year before, they were like, oh, we're doing, I don't know, it was something like 20% CPA, like commission rate on sales. And then, so we changed all, you know, the beauty team changed all the links to this brand rather than one of its third-party, platforms that it's on. And then they just closed their affiliate program, because you can do that. You can close it down, then you can open it back up again, because I guess, depending on where different brands, it comes out of different pots, I think. So I think the point I'm trying to make is the affiliate ecosystem is quite sort of mercurial, as in both within publishers, like Harriet's saying how they, they're a commercial team who sit with editorial. I think, well, now I'm pure editorial with some commercial responsibilities, all these sort of bridging, and then you've got the retailers or brands, who looks after the affiliate side of things. So sometimes you can go to the PR and talk to them about it, and they can feedback rates. And other times it'll be the marketing team. Another time it might be an agency, like in between. So I think, I don't know what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is there's a lot to sort of get your head around, both as a brand and a publisher. And I think you sort of want to know the big picture so that you can kind of adjust the taps accordingly to make sure, which is why I would say it's not a revenue stream that I think there's perhaps been an over-reliance on it as a revenue stream, but that is perhaps a controversial thing to say.
You could put all the effort you want into making this page amazing, and then no one could want to buy it. So you kind of have to, obviously you're researching what you do, but the pandemic example, the tide can turn, and all of a sudden, no, people don't want this product anymore. They want that because that's sold out. So you do have to, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to be prepared, but you have to, I think like what Sally's saying, you need to make sure that this stuff just changes. So you have to make sure you're not being over-reliant, I guess, but yeah.
Without asking, but going into figures or anything, is there a way of sort of explaining or showing on a pie graph how traditional advertising and affiliate marketing is, how is it split now, do you think?
Oh, I could talk to one of those.
Someone.
Well, for a new media brand, ironically being part of Daily Mail Group, which is obviously huge, but for a new media brand, I don't think it would be giving anything away to say that our affiliate revenue is incremental. But, it's not our main revenue stream. It never will be. So I suppose, I've seen this from different sides of the sort of Rubicon. Is it? Yeah. So it's what it does do is provide us with really valuable data to go to brands and for our sales team to leverage commercial partnerships, which for a brand that doesn't have the SEO authority of millions of people coming to their content, a commercial partnership worth 10 grand plus and up and up and up is going to be a lot more valuable than the affiliate revenue line. So for us, actually, and that will be different for every publisher. So for us, I might want to talk to someone about raising the CPA, the commission rate, or maybe negotiating a cost per click model. But really, our sales team want to sell a commercial partnership worth 20 grand. That's so, yeah. You've got the info, exactly. You can say, without giving it away, you can say, oh, this is our top selling brand on Eliza, let's say. And we can tell them, the most popular, there's now exact product bought reports. So you could say, 20 people bought this one dress. We can give really good data. So, yeah.
Rob, are there particular categories that do well in this sector for GQ?
Well, we've got quite a diverse offering. If you look at the channel, we cover menswear, grooming, fitness, gifting, tech, probably missing something out, interiors. So yeah, we cover loads of stuff. I think it's the things which tend to do best for us are the things which you associate with the GQ brand. But there's also been things where, so we didn't do too much in interiors in the magazine. It was kind of something like our chief sub Aaron used to run it, and it was a nice way to sort of like fill a few pages and get some nice pictures in there and all that sort of thing. But that's more and more of a focus for us, and we've had a commerce writer Daphne come in and basically make that a really big deal for us. So it's a mix of things. It's a mix of traditional things, and it's a mix of things which people can see there's a level of style and taste involved in it. It's something where they trust GQ's recommendation, I think.
I don't think I'm giving too much away by saying at Esquire there was suddenly a spike in mattresses and back massages, which was I think it's also a thing where there's a larger cut for certain things as well, depending on what they are.
Yeah, I think that's just the way of like selling any product. Yeah, there's always going to be things that have a larger, like interior products tend to have a larger cut associated with them. Tech products tend to have a smaller cut associated with them. But I don't think our coverage isn't driven by what makes us the most potential money, because we don't want to hawk rubbish, basically. We want to hawk things which are good and people are going to like enjoy using for a long time. So if that's a mattress, great. If that's a pair of headphones which we make a 2% CPA on, that's also great. It's all part of the mix for us, I think.
What would you say to if brands haven't got on board with it and are sort of resistant to it?
I think that's totally fine, honestly. Sorry, it's not meant to be contentious, but yeah, I think it's totally fine. Like, I think probably the thing that I would say is that most brands are on board with it, whether or not they realize it, because most brands are stocked in department stores, and department stores are definitely on board with it. So there might be brands who would miss out through sales through their own website, where they can make I imagine, a greater cut of the earnings by being on affiliates. But if they don't want to, that's totally fine. And that doesn't mean also from a GQ perspective that those brands aren't going to be covered either, because we want to give a broad range. Like, this is not a specific example. I'm talking in abstracts, just to be clear. But if you were buying a Burberry trench coat, you would expect to see a Burberry trench coat on GQ list of trench coats. And if Burberry was not on affiliates, then it would still be in that guide, because that conveys a level of authority. Just to be totally clear, that is not a specific example. That is an abstract.
Would you concur, you other guys?
Yes. I think one thing that we really, like, particularly at Hearst, we really focused on, or like we talked about a lot, is as a publisher thinking about where people want to shop, and they want to shop somewhere where it's like free and fast delivery, and that might be Amazon, sorry, but it might be, and it might be it might be a department store that they trust. They know they've warranties and all that kind of business. Increasingly, I think, like you were saying, D2C, those sites are becoming more trusted. I think partly because they're offering the shopping experience. They're offering what you'd get from like a department store. But another thing for brands to bear in mind when they're asking publishers to change their links, just a couple, like say, can you put our website? A lot of publishers use price comparison. So I don't know whether you like price comparison widgets or you'd list more than one retailer. So that's one way of getting around it. And it might be that the sale will go to the cheapest, probably the person selling it for cheapest, but also it might be that that your D2C site is not good, a good user experience. But also from our side, let's take a beauty, so Look Fantastic, for example, they stock like thousands of brands. So if someone goes to buy their lipstick from Bobbi Brown, let's say, we'd rather link to Look Fantastic than Bobbi Brown, because then they can go on to buy 10 other things on Look Fantastic, and then we get the revenue from the whole basket. So yeah, we are, you said, we're not just here to make money, we're here to sell good stuff. But if the good stuff is available on places where we could make more money, then we're probably going to do that.
It'll help it like bump up the list. Like if I've got a priority list, it's going to help, but it's not the be all and end all. But yeah, we'll cover stuff, and we'll always try and be like, this is the extra stuff you can get from this. This is trying to like help the reader. And I think it's something the indie do really well, is that when they have their retailers and their best for kind of things, a bit like you're saying, the Burberry trench coats, the way they do it is they'll have like best designer trench coat. They could have like best budget one. And I think for that's really good because it's kind of really kind of giving the shopper the choice. You're not kind of shutting yourself off to one thing. I think they're very good at doing a wide spectrum there.
Right. So, as I understand, if you went to your point, if you went to buy a trench coat and then happened to buy a whole load of luggage as well from the same website, that still comes back to you guys, right?
Yeah, we'll be able to see. We can't see exactly what they've bought, but we can see how many people have shopped from an article. We can see the order value and stuff like this. But that's all we can really see. And so you can kind of make choices for future content based on that. So I can see, so you can see what people are buying and you can see what's working well. So,
is there also a thing where the trust issue has to be that you're basically recommending people to go to somewhere else if the user experience at other place isn't great? Is there ever any comeback on you? If that makes sense.
I need to be really careful how I answer this because I'm not talking about where I work.
Yeah. Okay. Is it possible that you need to? It's about trust all the way around, right?
It's trust all the way around. You need to make sure you're giving the most honest, upfront, easy to read. The page itself is easy to read. Like, it's not confusing. You're kind of going through everything. You know, if it's the negative stuff in there, you need to say that. You need to be like, actually, this cheaper option could be better for you. So, and it's building all that as a bigger picture. Yeah.
Right. Rich, are there differences in particular products that do particularly well for you guys?
I think, to be honest, it's quite dynamic. I was thinking just over the last couple of answers that were given, I think we do a lot of work on what we call kind of path to purchase, sort of understanding where a consumer will learn about a product, research, where they might interact with it, and then finally purchase it. And that almost looks like a bit of a spider's web sometimes. It's really easy to oversimplify it and just think people might see a review or some advertising and they buy it, but it really doesn't look like that. And I very rarely fully understand what the journey does look like because it's so different for different people. So I think kind of going back to the last point, things like a kind of coherent journey of trust throughout is important. So trust in the content that they see, where that content is. They've got to have kind of trust in the publisher, the outlet, whether it's D2C or whether it's the retailer that's selling it. There's got to be trust there. So we always try to kind of remove friction in that journey because that's where somebody will stop and they'll go elsewhere and you'll sort of lose them. So I think in terms of products that do well, sometimes it is particular things like if we've got new releases, sometimes they can really just pick up quickly. Sometimes special offers, you talked about Black Friday, it's quite predictable, but if we've got a kind of well-established hot product and then there's a big saving, I mean, you can see that pick up, 4, 8, 10-fold almost immediately. And the kind of affiliate route is important in that because if people already know about the product and then we've got kind of trusted publications for consumers who are then picking up the product, you can just see that journey becoming kind of super easy and it turns into a purchase. It varies a lot, but you get those kind of magic moments where you've got the right product, the journey is just correct. Yeah, maybe there's a special offer on the price and it all comes through.
Do you always call it right, or are you surprised by things that...
Sometimes things catch us out, or things are... there are times where we're almost, I say, surprised at how well certain things are done. I mean, our product range, I think we've got probably most of the colours here, but you look around the room and there's a black product on the shelf up there, but we do special colorways and things like that, and we have a sort of forecast of what we think we do, and sometimes they really pick up. Sometimes it's based on coverage. We'll get somebody will cover it and feature it, and it just seems to land well with people, and the numbers can be really strong. So I think we've got better at it over the years, but it's always something that surprises you.
That journey thing, I think, is fascinating now because it's so transparent now, right? You can literally see someone putting something in their basket and then returning every other afternoon to have another look at it and then walk away?
Yeah, I think there are far more sort of data points. So on the one hand, yes, it's more transparent. The other hand, it's so much more complicated because there are so many different points that you can trace. So we've got a Marshall kind of insight team that look at this stuff for us. And, going back years with sort of more traditional advertising, we could see a sort of general trend about we'll run a campaign, we'll do a lot of kind of out-of-home type advertising. There is a general trend of sales picking up. So we had a sort of a good feeling about it, and that was enough to do another campaign. But now there are so many data points in, you can, with cookies and so on, you can kind of track consumers, but they don't go from point A to point B. They have, it's like a London Underground. They have all the stops on the way. So on the one hand, yes, you can track it. On the other hand, it's very complicated and it's easy and I think a bit dangerous to kind of oversimplify it. You do need to kind of keep ahead of the curve. And I think you were saying it can be quite kind of fragile. Yes, you have a good feel about what you want to back and which products you want to really kind of get behind, but equally it just might not happen. And in that instance, you've got to be ready for plan B.
Yeah, like you're clicking at all the data and you can see when people have like purchased stuff and when they've first clicks and what stuff, and it could be something as simple as they haven't been paid yet. So like it's just kind of figuring on out. I think the data is so interesting and you can use it to advantage as a publisher to help plan this stuff, but you can't, you just don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but be prepared that most of them will take off. Yeah.
I guess if you think it's some people think it's still some sort of dark arts to it. That's nice that there's still the human, like we all do, window shop and think, make a list and all that sort of stuff. There's still a bit of it that's inaccessible, right?
Sorry, I was like, yeah. I think there's a lot of like window shopping about it. There's a lot of like aspirational stuff. I think we see on The Sun that deals stuff does really well, and in particular, I don't think this is giving anything away because I think you could say this about everywhere. Anything that's quite expensive when that's on offer, you'll see that does really well because it's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to get that thing for a little bit less. You kind of, and I think and that's what our audience wants. Our audience are cost conscious. Probably more so than GQ, which is why we don't write about titanium watches because it wouldn't probably do very well. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of giving the readers what they will need to buy, what they might want to buy, and also just some nice stuff. I think it's what everyone really wants. It's the nicest bit I think about the affiliate journalism as a role is that you do get to just kind of look and research and write about this stuff, and that's nice in itself. So.
Has where people shop changed in the sense that you imagine people are just buying through Instagram or on their phones more than they ever were?
Yeah. I think it's probably changed less than than like society would lead you to believe. I think the reason for that, I think one thing from sort of anecdotally I could say is the point about friction. If you think about for publishers, the Instagram user journey to actually purchase something, at the moment, depending on what you do, that might be, going onto a grid, or seeing it on your feed, going through to like shop, going through to the publisher, clicking out. There are ways of, like at Eliza, we do on stories, for example, and on grid posts, we do link directly to products. You just obviously have to make sure you have the right disclaimers and go through your legal team, etc., etc. But we, I'd say it's social, like sales through Instagram, I think aren't quite the silver bullet because of the user journey to actually purchase. But I know that's different. I know, like, depending on what someone's setup is, I think maybe influencers, it's easier, like you do it directly. I'm not sure. But I think for publishers, it's still a growing area. And but I don't know, like, what you find, GQ, and obviously, TikTok is the ultimate question. The amount of times I've heard people talk about live shopping on TikTok for publishers and it not happen is quite significant.
I can help speak to that. But I think Yeah, TikTok is an interesting one. I think obviously products are sold there. I think you make a really good point about influencers, but I mean, hypothetically, if you were to speak to TikTok about this, and there are a lot of brands which are native to TikTok or TikTok specific. There aren't that many brands which exist outside of TikTok in the same way, and there is a reason for that, I would say. So yeah, that means trying to monetize. Some people are buying stuff on TikTok. Like my colleagues talk about it all the time. Like someone bought a pillow the other day on TikTok. Saw an ad, they bought a pillow. Are people buying high ticket items, the kind that like GQ would really be associated with? Like, I'm probably not to the same degree. Maybe one day though. I wouldn't write. I'm sure. Well, if you've seen all the job ad listings around TikTok at the moment, then you would know that that is something that they very much want to do. So
yeah, I think what we do, I think all of us probably do, is write about stuff that's trending on social media. So, you know, the TikTok viral, we tried the TikTok viral lipstick or whatever that magically changes to match your skin tone. Like 6 of us tried it in the office and here's what we thought, and that kind of thing. We do that. I think everyone does that now. And we do talk about, you know, the things we've seen all over our grids, and in our ideas meetings, a lot of the chat is, what have you seen on your socials? What's in the group chat? You know, that's how we do a lot of ideas generating, because we're fashion and beauty, so that's quite fun, you know. But I don't know whether you do that as well.
No, that definitely helps to lead like a lot of the stuff I do. Like looking for, I think there was one on a lot of dupe content comes from that. You'll find that some big brands will go big on TikTok, and then we'll look for like more affordable alternatives. Yeah, a lot for products, we can see what's trending. It helps us like direct what we're going to write about. It helps us like future-proof a lot of stuff we're going to write about. If we see that someone's going that way, that's becoming trend. There's like products that weren't big before and are big now, kind of thing. And I think a lot of it comes from what people are posting about, rather so much than you buying it through TikTok. Like I wouldn't buy a telly through TikTok. No, but my friend bought crystals, which I was like, that's weird. And I was like, that's probably as much as I'd go. But yeah, I think we'll look at what's performing. I think in the beauty space especially, like you'll see these products go super viral and they'll sell out, and then that then becomes a story in itself when they come back, because you're like, here's where to buy the sellout thing.
Connected to recommending just quality stuff and good stuff that you all do is the idea that the consumer is now more clued up post-pandemic. They spend indoors all the time, reading up on stuff, which is the sort of editorial bit of what you guys do. Do you think is true? Is the consumer know more than they did 5 years ago?
I think they're definitely more conscious and probably researching this more, but I think that's gone hand in hand with the amount of growth of the kind of content that we do. I think there's definitely a lot more stuff around it about kind of not being scammed and reputable sites and people wanting to spend their money better because money's tighter. So I think people still want to shop, but they just want to do it in a much more conscious way. And if they're going to treat themselves, they're going to research it and they're going to really make sure what they're buying is the best. But they'll still buy something cheap and like quickly. But I think that for us, we're seeing that's kind of where there's kind of big I think that's where the attraction of dupe content has kind of done well in beauty, because people can't spend a lot of big things. But then for us, on affiliate side, to go off on a little weird tangent, we have to be careful. We don't want to be saying this is better than the real thing, because that's also, if they want to buy the real thing, they want to make sure we give them all the facts to go with it. So it's trying to like, yeah, people are still spending, they're just doing it in different ways.
Which is why I think that more and more people they want to see video of the product in use. They want to see, so like I said at Eliza, we do a lot of social video. The girls wear the clothes, they try the makeup, and not just the fashion and beauty, like the rest of the team will get involved, because we're a diverse team and we've got a diverse audience, so we try and do that. So you want, original photography, original video, so that people know that you've actually had your hands on these products and tried them. And I think you guys probably increasingly do that. I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But
yeah, I think having cool imagery is important. Sometimes that's shooting stuff, sometimes it's GQ. I mean, we talked about doing photo shoots recently, but we've just got, there's Prime Day next week, so we've just worked with the art teams to logo that stuff up so it looks sick. It is important. I think, I mean, people are skint, to answer the original question. People are skint, so they're going to look around more because they want to make sure that what money they have is spent well, basically.
Yeah, which is why the recommendations thing is becoming increasingly important, right? Because it's trusted.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, we've actually had to. It's not that we didn't recommend stuff before based on whether we tried it, but I think more and more so that is something that we're increasingly in mind of in terms of like all trust, quality, and all the stuff that we've talked about before.
We've got time for questions if anyone, people have some.
Rich, Harriet, you spoke about how much data is available and that you have, and as we all know, data is very important for making the decisions and optimizing how you make on which affiliate links to use. I guess my question is, do you see, are you already sharing that data with brands and how much, or is that an area where brands and publishers can grow by joint sharing their information together to make more informed decisions? Is that something the next step, or is that something that's already happening?
Well, from the brand side, so the data we get is kind of first-party Marshall.com data, but we also work with affiliate programs through retailers as well. So there is, was going back to one of the earlier questions around should brands be involved in affiliates, or do they need to be sort of, I suppose, switched on to affiliate programs? And I think the answer is yes, but you have to kind of look at it quite strategically, because you can almost become quite siloed where you've got different pools of affiliate activity. And I'm sure some brands would say they're not involved in affiliate, but actually they are, because their retail channels are doing it for them. So I think in time, yes, it will probably, as brands and retailers, I think as this sort of levels out a little bit, it's still going to be super important, but there will be a move to kind of work a little bit more sort of smartly together, I would say, in a joined up way.
I think, for us as a publisher, obviously there's only a certain amount of data that we can see. Like when I'm mentioning stuff, I'm talking very generally, like we can see like the order value and stuff like this. We can't see specific people and all that sort of stuff. And then, but again, it's only so much that we would share, because for us that's like commercially sensitive data and stuff like that. So I think while we can work with brands and we can give like general figures and stuff like this, there's only so much we can actually do, and that's just protecting the publishers, really.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if anyone else uses it, but I'm a bit obsessed. You can, so Skimlinks, which I think we've mentioned, so it's an aggregator of all the different networks. The ecosystem is quite confusing, but they have an exact product bought report, which a small number of affiliate networks give the data to the report. So, for example, I mean, it's pretty useful for fashion and beauty, to be honest, because there are certain brands. So the H&M group is on there. So all of those brands, and so that's for us, and ASOS as well. So for us, where H&M and ASOS make up a huge amount of our what people shop, we can see the exact product that someone's bought. And whereas I think whereas say like before that report, you'd just see the outbound link. So you'd see like the ASOS dress that someone had clicked through on, and that would come up as one basket. This is information that is, anyone say, one basket. But then actually, if you go through to this report, you could sort of extrapolate that one basket was made up of 5 dresses, none of which was the one they clicked for. But yeah, I mean, it's like there's not enough of that data for you to be like writing articles about it. But it's more like giving you a sense of what your your readers are actually buying. And of course, Amazon, he who shall not be named, Amazon is, you can see exactly what your people have bought. You can see every single product that's been shipped. So I don't know, we at Hearst, we always used to have some quite mad things in the baskets alongside the treadmills. I won't go into detail, but yeah.
Kind of like when you go shopping and you see what someone's left by what they picked up.
Right. Another question?
I just wanted to get a bit of a vibe check from everyone with the cost of living crisis kind of on everybody's mind, I'm sure. From an affiliate perspective rather than a personal perspective, are you guys worried about it? Like, is it affecting your bottom line at the moment? How have you strategized for the rest of the year about how to kind of counteract that? Sorry, it's quite a heavy question.
Shall I go first and give some people some time to figure it out? How worried am I about it? Well, I can't control it, so I try not to worry about the things that I control, in all honesty. I think there's always things you're going to do, like you probably lean a bit more into like deals associated content where that's relevant. Obviously, people, you were talking about the pandemic earlier, like what people buy changed completely in the space of 2 years in affiliates. You know, you talked about treadmills, people really kicking out their home gyms. They're like, in terms of GQ, men's grooming products went through the roof because no one could go to Boots or wherever to buy them. And you know, that's changed again. So I mean, it's kind of, I'm not worried about it because I think directionally the trend for GQ is growth and quite significant growth. This is going to be, it's going to be a challenge, but honestly, like after the last 2 years, everything else is. So, you know, we'll figure it out.
At Eliza, our USP, I suppose, is that we focus on affordability, like fashion and beauty, but make it affordable. And we do a lot of dupe content, which is we're trying to do as responsibly as possible. So one thing we're talking about now is, say, we actually have a dupe detective email that is like a dupe alert, which is literally what it sounds like. If one of the team sees something good, they put it in the Slack channel. We decide how good it is by looking at the kind of, we're sort of working on a scale by looking at sort of, say it's a beauty product. You can't just say something, say a lipstick is a dupe, if one's like going to last 24 hours and the other one's going to rub off in, you know, when you've walked out the door, basically. So you look at the ingredients, you know, does it have a similar ingredients list? Does it have, you know, that kind of thing? And with fashion, it's like fabrics, you know, is it linen versus polyester, or, you know, that kind of thing. And so then we can advise readers, oh yeah, like if you want the look, this silhouette of this dress will look the same, more or less, from a distance. But in reality, you know, you know, one's highly flammable, and the other. But then, what do you expect for £15 versus 150? I think, yeah, a good example is actually. You'll have seen these around. ASOS sandals that look like Hermes ones worth 500 quid. Literally everyone's got them. They sell them in June, and everyone's written about this. But the June versions, there's a non-leather version. There's a leather version that's like 100. So the non-leather, I think, is about 70. The leather version is about 100 or 90, 100. There was a even cheaper version that ASOS. It's June for ASOS, that there was, I don't know, even pleather, basically cheap pleather, and they had different soles and but the amount of those sandals that I've seen everywhere. But we're telling our people, if you want leather sandals that will probably last you, you know, for a couple more holidays, seasons, then probably get those June ones that are good dupes. If you just want them for, you know, whatever, if you've only got 15 quid or 30 quid, then these ASOS ones are probably for you. So I think, yeah, transparency and like first person anecdote is good. I don't remember why I started that, but yeah.
It was a good story.
Yeah, no, it is a good story, but we're not the only ones to have noticed these shoes.
I'm pretty sure I can. No, I think it's exactly what Sally said, especially for like a cost-conscious audience like The Sun. You just have to be responsible. I think you need to be responsible in what you're covering. But yeah, at the same time, just giving options and then just making sure you are helping people spend their money wisely. People are still going to need to do it. And at the same time, if they want to save up and buy something nice, then it's giving them these options and these choices to do so.
Yeah, I think all those points are sort of relevant to us. I once worked for a guy, this was years ago, around the kind of, was it 2008 credit crunch time, heading into recession. And he said, when you go into recession, you just work harder, which I thought was a very simple answer to it. But for a brand, we still have the sort of same challenges as always. We're about sort of persuading consumers to buy into our brand and to buy our products. It's just the sort of the climate changes and I suppose the kind of narrative changes. So it's still about having products that are relevant. It's about being visible in the right places. I think, you know, particularly where the sort of communication is around cost of living, you have to be sensitive to that, and we want to put the right products in the right places which are affordable. But also we're sort of driving quality and a product that you can invest in and that will last for maybe longer than a cheaper product, a sort of throwaway product. So in ways, the challenge doesn't change that much for us. They're always the things we're focusing on. Maybe we just tweak the mix slightly in terms of where we look. And I think there's definitely a case that it's partly a cost of living symptom, but also kind of post-pandemic is that consumers are researching more, and it's quick and it's easy to do. So maybe they start with a publication, there's a recommendation for a product, you can really quickly jump onto Instagram, find out about it there. You might look at a YouTube video, maybe you jump onto a retailer site or Amazon or something like that, look at the star rating, compare the price. So all the different touch points. So you just got to make sure that they're all joined up and you're not giving a consumer a reason to say, no, I'll look at something else. So I think there is no sort of quick, simple or easy answer to it. You just got to make sure you've got all the bases covered.
One more question, if anyone's... Okay, well, then thank you very much, everyone, for turning up, and thanks very much also, obviously, to fantastic guests here, Rob, Sally, Harriet, Rich, and Tabby. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the